Okay, so let's assume then that you're really, really pleased with where you've gotten to with your drawing. What we're going to do, I was thinking of using watercolors, but now I'm wondering if we want to use some acrylics. No, let's stick with watercolors because that's something really quite easy for everybody to work with. And we are going to decide on some colors that we're going to use. And the way we decide is simply by picking what pleases us. That's it. If you want to think artistically about it, you could kind of think about maybe some contrast. So maybe we should do a bit of light. Maybe we should do a bit of dark. If you're going to go neutral and maybe put this in a neutral space, you could choose some of these sort of browns and ochres. As you can see, sometimes the decision does not come immediately, and we're doing this together in real time, the real way I actually work. So, you know, sometimes you just have to sit and feel something for a little bit. I am being drawn to some things. Do you know what? I think I'm being drawn. I don't know why. Being drawn here to cadmium yellow. Now that doesn't make any sense because what we're working on is a piece about closing off from the world and pulling inward and being somber, and this is a very optimistic color generally. So maybe initially I should be going a little bit more with drawy. Maybe I should do something that I don't normally work with, which are kind of browns. Maybe I just do browns and ochres to start with and see where that takes us. Might end up muddy, but that's okay, I guess. Oh, do you know what I forgot to put underneath it? Is cloths. Wherever you're working, get yourself some newspaper or some rags and put them down underneath so that the water from the watercolors doesn't destroy whatever surface it is that you're working on. And in my case, for this particular piece, it is in fact the floor of my studio, which right now happens to be a mess and which usually happens to be a mess. Now, when I was a young adult, shall we say, I was 28 to 30, and I remember this period of my life quite vividly. I was working in London as a teacher of English language, literature, media, and I was working in a very big London school, and I was, at that time, I think the second in charge of the English and media faculty, and there were 15 teachers in the faculty. It was a big faculty. I had bought my house in London when I was 27 years old. And, I mean, for all intents and purposes, life was good. I had a steady, stable job. I had good friendships with my colleagues. I was starting my master's degree in educational leadership and management. And, you know, things were good, but I was not. Okay. What are we going to do with her? We're going to take a brush. I'm using this one. And we are going to just do this. She is right now buried in the slop of life. If you only have whatever brush you have doesn't really matter. Bigger the better, really, at this stage. Don't take your water all the way to the edge. But literally, I want you to think slop. She's buried in the slop of life. And start with one of the light colors that take your fancy. I don't know. I don't really like ochre generally, so I have no idea why I'm gravitating towards it now. And we're just going to slop it in the sloppy water. I want you to think buried in the slop of life. Buried in the slop of life. Anyway, so while I was teaching, there's nothing wrong really. Just I realized eventually, and I must tell you how just dreadful the whole thing was. But if you see an area of the painting that you know is going to be lower than the rest, you can go a bit darker. So I know the bottom of the bum here is going to be darker, so I'm going to go a little bit darker. This area over here behind her leg is going to be a bit darker. Don't go to the edge. There's nothing linear about this. We just don't really want at all to be constrained by any lines or any rigidity, right? This is a woman who is really struggling to know what to do. Let me do a bit of burnt umber. Weird, I don't like these colors normally. I don't know, let's see where it's going. Might not like where it's going, but if I don't, I'll paint over it. It's no big deal. And we're kind of loosely respecting these lines, just sort of somewhat, you know. Go here as well. Behind her on the bed, it's going to be that. I hear a child coming. Hello. I was filming. He came in and he waved and he realized what was going on. He's left now. What do you guys think? I'm drawn here again to my crimson, which is just, oh my goodness, it's beautiful. But where is it going to go? Oh, I guess it's going to go there. Ooh, I like that. Maybe we need some more crimson. I'm so focused on this, I'm not actually able to like tell you about my story yet. It's quite nice, I like that. This is starting to look like a bloodbath. We need a new plan. All right. Let's go into our... Let's mix... Ooh, let's just mix all of these and clean this palette up while we're at it. Let's mix ultramarine with Viridian to make a deep teal. Look at that turquoise color. Okay, now let's use this for some definition, maybe somewhere. That leg under there, maybe. Behind her on the bed, under her bum. Interesting, it's kind of mixing with the brown and giving us quite a nice gray. Calling to me. Just sort of send your brush wherever it's calling to you. Mix up a little bit more of that color. I like it. I like how it's, yeah, it's kind of going gray on the canvas. I'm still concentrating on this, so I can't tell you my story so much. But, see if we can get more of this. See if we can get a better version of this in here. A bit more in there, a bit more down there. Maybe we can go quite dark in here behind her knee, you know, because this is the crazy hair. I'll go with that like that. So you see, we want this whimsy. I don't want anybody to be stressed by trying to create anything too restrictive, you know? Just sort of getting an idea of the shape of her. This is going to be a bit darker in here. Some of these creases, all of this is going to get, you know, nice and blendy, right? Or maybe, oh God, I love this indigo. Can't get enough of this indigo. I'm going to regret this really putting this on. Honestly, I just love it. We'll come again with the brush hair here. If you have a color that really speaks to you, just enjoy it, you know? We're not trying to make masterpieces. We're not thinking about sale value. We're not thinking about if we're going to hang it or where we're going to hang it. We're thinking about this part of ourselves that sometimes just needs a duvet day, as we used to call it when I was living in the UK. Need a duvet day. I don't think it's so much a Canadian term, you know. Don't really remember hearing that in Canada. But it was definitely something that I heard a lot in the UK. And it makes sense because, good gracious, the weather is just diabolical. It's quite cool, actually, what's emerging. You see here where her skin is. It's emerging kind of this concept of a skin color, but look how kind of sickly it is with these patches. It's quite symbolic of kind of what you feel like, right, when you're going through one of these. So maybe what we'll do is we will delineate the skin from this bedspread, which we could do white as the, you know, as most bedspreads be white, but I'm not really in the mood for that. Let's do a bit of orange, just for the hell of it. Obviously yours will be totally different. And that's great. So I love how this is all like blending together, right? Her one with the bed. You see why the pencil lines don't really matter so much, right? Because this is what's gonna happen with it. Okay, I want more indigo up here. I'm really liking this really dark blend of stuff going on. And I feel like I can get more of that crimson in here as well. Why not just clean my palette a little bit while I'm at this project? There's no harm. Quite like the real blend of stuff that happens. You know, you don't want this to feel too cheery, right? Because we don't feel cheery when we're like this. You know, so this is why it's quite nice for colors to blend together. Maybe more indigo here. You know, when you get nice quality paints, I mean, look at the gorgeous, man. Look at the pigment. Let's balance out that richness. So when you're doing something, if you're not liking the feel of it, there's a good chance that it's got something to do with balance being off. Contrast, light versus dark. Really dark under her bum here. It's quite dark down in there a little bit. Hey dude. Hi darling, I'm filming.
Just to tell you, I accomplished a mission. I have no lice in my hair for now.
Really?
No lice.
Did Dad just do a nice check on you?
No, I combed and then I checked if I didn't have any lice. I used the lice comb. Nope, nothing. Thank God. What? I have no lice.
That's wicked. Are you guys getting your snack bags ready for tomorrow?
No.
Do you want to go do that maybe?
We don't know what to do.
You know how to do your snack bags.
I know, just it's a bit boring.
Of course it is. It's...
What? After you're done, tell us, okay?
Are we gonna watch a movie or something?
What?
We're gonna watch a movie or something.
I wanna watch could we watch that guy?
Tintin?
No, Ryan Trahan.
Can we watch something that's like...
But he's cool, fun. I'll watch funny cat videos.
Where's Dad? Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, when you get to a point where you're like, alright, feels alright. You're going to do something with some salt. Now, if you start losing some areas that are important or that you want to keep, like I see here we're losing her shoulder right to this beautiful indigo, then I'm going to just prop it up a bit so that the indigo goes away from her shoulder a bit. You can see we're getting we still have the general shape, don't we? However, I think I'm going to just do this. Just to define those, couple of those areas a little bit so we don't lose those so much. This is where a rag comes in nice and handy. It's quite cool. Okay, now just gonna play. Just want you to feel. You're not trying to make yours look like mine. You're not trying to use the same colors I used. You're just trying to play. Try to maintain some sense of what's going on. You just want to sense, though, right? You want the body, when it looks at this, to recognize that shape, that form. So all I'm doing is I'm just pulling away some paint so that we can maintain that form. So I've lost this second leg in there. I'm just going to get that back. I'll try to get the line of that back. The line of that. All right. Maybe that bum line a little bit. This is going to fill back in, but it might give us a bit more vacancy. Okay. Now you see what's going on down here? All of that's pooling there. I don't think I'm a fan of that, which means I need to just raise this a little bit. Okay. Quite a nice swimming pool. All right. I've got salt, and we're going to use salt on this. And the reason we're going to use salt is because salt is going to create this very cool effect. It causes, because it's an absorbent matter, it causes the water on the canvas to pull towards it and clusters the pigment where the salt is. And then when this layer dries, what we'll do is we'll come back and we'll brush the salt off, but the pigment will have collected on the canvas and will stay in this sort of concentrated form in those areas. And I want to use salt for this piece because salt is both corrosive and preservative. It destroys and it's an antiseptic. It's a giver of life, it's a taker of life. And in small quantities, salt is essential in our bodies for life. In large quantities, it's toxic, just like the challenges of life. In small quantities, the challenges of life make us stronger. In large quantities, the challenges of life threaten to destroy. Sometimes we're not strong enough to get past it. When I was 28, I went into a quarter-life crisis. And looking at this and I'm thinking about what I want to do. I'm going to move to this brush with a nice fine point on the end. It's an Artix 14, bought in Portugal in a Chinese shop. Not very much money, maybe about €3. And I'm just going to use this to intensify some color in some places, because as the salt pulls the pigment towards the salt, it gets pulled away from other areas. So I'm just going to use it to intensify the depth, probably with the indigo, in some of the recessed areas of the painting. Anyway, I went into I didn't know what it was at the time. I didn't understand, but it was a quarter life crisis, which basically happens, as it sounds, at the kind of quarter point of your life rather than at the halfway point of your life. And it was debilitating. I was teaching at the time, and I would go, and I was second in charge of the faculty, so I had quite a big responsibility. I would teach my class, and then I would go into my storage cupboard and I would cry, and then I'd pull myself together, and then I'd get ready for the next class, and then I'd teach the next class. And that went on for nearly 2 years. My colleagues didn't know, my friends didn't know. I managed to put on a smile during the day. My mother knew, and my mother was very concerned because I wouldn't even talk to her. And what I would do, however, was on my way home from school, I would go to, and I was living in London, southeast London, I would go to the corner shop on my way home. And at that time you could buy used DVDs from that shop. So I'd pick up like 3 DVDs, and if I didn't already have a bottle of wine in the house, which I generally did, because at that time you could get a decent bottle of wine for a $5, and I would go home and I would curl up on my sofa and I would watch literally 3 movies, and I would drink my wine, and it would often extend beyond 1 bottle, just myself. And somehow I would manage to wake up in the morning and go to school and teach, and nobody was the wiser. Was I an alcoholic? No, apparently not. I was able to function and could have said no, etc., etc. It was just the only coping mechanism I had at the time. And I was feeling terrible about being in this state because I did not register myself as somebody who would fall victim to such an emotional state. I mean, this was a full-blown depression. And it just wasn't part of my identity. I didn't know who this person was. And so I kind of refused to believe like what was going on with me, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm literally just intensifying some of these dark areas here. When I say dark areas, I mean the areas that are lower down, so that it gives us a sense of what's coming to the top, right? What's in the foreground and what's in the background. And eventually I said to myself, well, it is what it is, just sink into it, and that's that. And that's what I did. And it was the best thing that I could have done. I said, I am not going to fight this thing anymore. I am going to stop feeling guilty that I am curled up watching movies in the evening. I'm managing to go to work. I didn't have a choice on that because I had a mortgage to pay. I was 27 and I had a mortgage to pay. I was living in a country that was not my country. I'm Canadian, and I was living in London, England. My family and my support network were nowhere around. And it was hard, man. It was hard. So eventually I sunk into it. I stopped worrying. I stopped judging myself. Because, yeah, I was definitely doing a bit of that. I'm going to add a bit of cerulean blue into the mix. And in sinking into it, I was carried through it, and I was carried to the learning point that was trying to reach me. And I feel that when we find ourselves in these situations where we are pulled into what society would call a depression, it's because we have gotten off course somehow, and we need to course correct, and we need to hear the message about how we need to course correct. In my instance, I realized what was going on is that my life did not look anything like I thought it was going to look at that point in time. At that point in time, by that age, I was 28 by then, I thought that I should have met Mr. Right. I thought that I should have a family. I thought that I should have kids by then. And my life looked nothing like what I had imagined it should look like by that stage. And that was my depression. And it highlighted for me that actually I really did want to be a mom. I really did want to be married. I really did want to find a man that I loved and that loved me, and that it was the lack of this that was causing me this dissonance, this disconnect between who I saw myself as, what my identity was, and what was actually transpiring. And eventually I ended up saying, well, I came to two conclusions through that thing. One was seek joy. So if I was washing the dishes and I was thinking, oh, I'm feeling, something's just feeling off here, I would say, well, what would you rather be doing? And I would just listen to whatever the answer is. And then I would go and I would do that. I got so bad that I was sort of saying, well, what's the point even of showering? I'm just going to get dirty again, What's the point of washing the dishes? They're just going to get dirty again. And this was the depth of my despair, I guess. Nothing held value. Nothing held joy. Nothing held purpose. Absolutely nothing. So when I moved to the concept of, well, seek joy, I was able to stop worrying about what I thought I should be doing or where I thought I should be at that time. And I just started to pay attention to what was within my reach. I had a garden. Gardening was within my reach. I had movies. Movies were within my reach. I had wine. Wine was within my reach. And I worked with that. That's cool. The other conclusion I came to was This too shall pass. This too shall pass. So if it's good, love it and enjoy it, because it's not going to last forever. And if it's bad, keep going, because it's not going to last forever. Once I realized that my depression, my withdrawal, my complete and utter sense of apathy, aloneness, lack of purpose, lack of interest in anything. Once I realized that it was coming from this disconnect, and I had spotted what truly was of importance for me, which was seeking this sense of a love connection that could build a family, I put my energy into that. Once I had stopped wanting it, I got to the point where I stopped wanting it for my sense of fulfillment. I started to live for the sake of living. I started to notice the sun. I started to sit alone by myself with a cup of tea or something, and I just enjoyed my own company. And as I got stronger, I started to look at my life, and I realized I didn't have space in my life for somebody else. I didn't have space in my bedroom. I didn't have space in my wardrobe. I didn't have space in my kitchen cupboards. I didn't have space in my bathroom cupboard. I didn't have space anywhere for somebody. So, of course, nobody was going to come into my life. I just didn't have space. So then I started to make space. I literally emptied one of my bedside cabinets. I emptied cabinetry in the kitchen, make space for their food. I cleared out a whole wardrobe to make space for their clothes. And I opened my heart, and then I started dating a lot. And it was like, okay, next. I wasn't hoping anybody was going to like me. I wasn't feeling bad if I liked them, but they didn't like me, and it wasn't going to go to a second date. I developed standards. One of my standards, I know it sounds terrible, but one of my standards is I'm quite tall. I'm 5'10". I would wear my highest heels, and if they weren't taller than me, that was basically a sign that there probably wasn't going to be a second date. I feel like I'm losing the sense of what's going on here. I need to get that back by reestablishing this as one thing and reestablishing this as another. And I hope you're doing well. If you spot that you're losing anything, then just get it back, just by wiping some things away a little bit. And remember that the stuff that's nearest to you is going to be the most bright. So you can give a sense of depth just by wiping away some coloration at the high points, right? And don't be afraid to use your fingers. All right, okay, I think I'm getting a little bit of that back again. Anyway, fast forward, and I came out of that period of time knowing myself a whole heck of a lot better and what I valued. I met a lovely man to whom I'm now married, and I can tell you that marriage is no picnic. For anybody who thinks marriage is going to solve their problems, it is something that needs regular attention. But it does give us a never-ending opportunity for growth, because we are making a commitment to share a life with another human being. And that means that when things go awry, when we have disagreements, which are inevitable, it will always happen, that we are committed to figuring out how to work them out. And if we don't make a commitment to that, then it won't last. And I can tell you that men and women definitely speak different languages. Okay. How are you feeling about yours? If you're not liking it at this stage, that's totally fine. I'm going to show you the things to take a look at that might help you like it a little bit better, and you'll know the things that you need to address. So the first thing, generally what we don't like, assuming you got your lines right and you're pretty reasonably happy with your lines, generally why we don't like things is we don't have the right contrast or the right balance in a piece. So you just want to look at your dark areas. Are your dark areas the areas that are farthest away from you? And do you have enough contrasting light areas to show depth, to bring the top pieces forward? Now I say I could probably get a little bit more light contrast in there. And maybe a little bit more here where, the hip would be kind of quite high, right? This shoulder would be quite high. I just don't want to lose too much of that. I like that. And I like these white areas. Those are quite nice. I don't want to lose too many of those. And balance is the other thing. So see, I've got some dark, quite heavy dark here, which I've also got up at the top, same there and same there. If you end up with too much kind of dark down here and it's too light up there, you might find that you're not feeling the piece, because it might be too heavy in one area and then not balanced out in another area. Now, in all of that, I have sort of slid some salt around, right? So what I might do is just reestablish some more salt. And remember, the goal of this is fun. If you don't like it, you paint over it. Now, I think I'm reasonably happy with where I've gotten to on that. And what I'm going to do is leave her here for now to dry. And then when we come back in the next video, we're going to brush this all off when she's dry. And then we're going to take a look at where we're at. And then we're going to feel our way forward. I'm starting to think that instead of a black marker, which really would be way too harsh right now, that I might be in the mood to do a graphite stick. And my office is a mess, so I don't think I can put my hands on one right now to show you. But that's okay, because I'm not even entirely sure that that's what I want to do. I might want to do a chalk pastel, maybe like this. I might be in the mood to do some sort of oil pastel like this. I don't know. I might. I've not done this before, but this is carbon paper. And I might be in the mood to lay the carbon paper down and do some scratching and get some rather scratchy transfer of carbon paper on there. That's a nice idea. I might do that. We'll see. We'll see when we come back. All right. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you have processed as well some of your own moments of withdrawal in life, maybe what caused them, maybe how you dealt with them, maybe whether or not they're creeping up again, maybe whether or not there's something that you need to do to address whatever's underlying, because there is some message that you need to hear, something that you need to think about, so that the stresses of life going forward in the future don't pit away at you in a corrosive manner. The way this salt, you see this gorgeous effect the salt is having here? And if you use the salt as a metaphor for the challenges that cause us to feel that we need to withdraw this way, you can see that in the same way the salt is enhancing the beauty of this painting, those challenges are going to, whether you feel it or not at this stage, they are going to enhance the beauty of your personality, of your character, of your storytelling, of your ability to support others, your ability to support your children, your ability to empathize with others, your ability to empathize with your children. And it will shape you. It will beautify you if you can manage to make sure it does not corrode you. Okay? All right. I hope you've enjoyed this time we've shared today, and we'll see how we get on in the next stage. Love you guys. Bye.